Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Neil Neimark, board certified family doctor and founder of the Academy of Stress Mastery. And I'm here today to teach you a little bit about a checklist for an overactive stress response, also known as our fight or flight response. Now this is critical because virtually all the symptoms and signs and illnesses that you can get from an overactive fight or flight response are represented in this short, brief talk I'm going to give you today. So pay attention. We're going to go through them rather quickly, but I want you to understand the kinds of things that an overactive stress or fight or flight response can cause in the human mind and the human body and spirit so that you know how to counteract these effects through the rest of our home study course here. So do you have any of the following symptoms? Do you tend to overreact to the actions or comments of others, often suspecting their intentions or motivations? Now this happens because remember, when we're in fight or flight, that's our emergency system where we're trained to look for everything that's a potential harm or threat in our environment. So when our switch is on, when the fight or flight is active, it means we're going to perceive almost everything in our environment as a potential enemy because we're on hypervigilant, over alert, looking for problems that we can react to avoid getting eaten by the proverbial saber-toothed tiger or avoid getting injured by somebody chasing us. So we overreact to the actions and comments of others. We suspect both their intentions and motivations. So if this is you, pay attention. We can work on this. Number 2, do you find it hard to experience gratitude, peace of mind, or a positive attitude? Again, when you're in fight or flight, when you're in emergency mode, fleeing from danger or perceived harm, it's almost impossible to simultaneously experience gratitude or peace of mind or positivity. Why? Because we're trying to get the heck out of there and escape from danger and escape from harm's way. So if you're finding it difficult to constantly or even periodically experience gratitude or peace of mind or positive attitudes, then you know fight or flight may be at play. Number 3, do you tend to focus on fear, mostly anticipating the worst and worrying about the future rather than enjoying the present moment? Now, again, these signs focused on fear, emergency, danger. Will Robinson, red alert, look out for problems in the environment. We're going to be focused on fear. So if you're finding that you're anticipating the worst, anticipating problems, worrying about the future, that can easily be fight or flight. Enjoying the present moment is the exact opposite of our fight and flight, which is sympathetic nervous system. Enjoying the present moment is a parasympathetic nervous system activity, the so-called rest and digest and peaceful downtime phase of our nervous system. So the ability to enjoy the present moment, to stay focused in the now, has a lot to do with being out of fight or flight. Number 4, do you find yourself making bad choices or making lots of mistakes? Why does this happen? Well, remember, when fight or flight is active, there is a shunting of blood away from your cerebral cortex out to your muscles and limbs where you need to run or flee or get up the strength to hit somebody back or to club the tiger or to escape the harm. So when that blood flow is going out to the extremities so you can run faster or have more muscle activity and fight harder to protect yourself, it is shunted away from your brain, the cortex, the cerebral cortex, the thinking, cognitive part of your brain where well thought out decisions lie. You are in automatic mode, running and fleeing. You're not going to be making good choices. You're going to make lots of mistakes. Number 5, is your life like a series of short-term emergencies for which you find it difficult to really relax and renew your mind, body, and spirit? Again, that's fight or flight. sympathetic overdrive, in calming, peaceful, mindful behavior where your thoughts are focused on joy and being in the moment. You cannot simultaneously be calm and be running from a saber-toothed tiger at the same time. It just doesn't happen. You've got to down-regulate, calm down the fight-or-flight response, and turn up the parasympathetic nervous system so that you can enjoy the moment. So if your life is like a series of emergencies and you cannot find the time to relax, you're always wired, you're always jumping from one thought to the next, from one worry to the next, this is a sign of overload of your fight or flight system. Number 6, do you often feel overwhelmed and burnt out? Again, when fight or flight is on long enough, it triggers the adrenal glands, which eventually initially put out extra cortisol to help you cope with the stress and extra adrenaline to help you lift the car off your trapped child or whatever. But after a while, if it doesn't calm down, the adrenals go into a fatigued state where they can no longer put out cortisol, no longer regulate the adrenaline and the noradrenaline output, and you end up feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, fatigued, and depressed as well. Number 7, do you get frequent headaches, stomach upset, high blood pressure, back pain, and or muscle tension? Now, all of these things, when we're in fight or flight, automatically our muscles are tense and prepared to provide a sort of body armor against a damaging blow or a lunge from a wild animal, in terms of evolutionary readiness. We chronically tense our muscles in fight or flight without even knowing it. It can lead to chronic back pain, chronic headaches, chronic muscle tension. And again, the sympathetic nervous system puts out adrenaline and noradrenaline, which raise the blood pressure. Also, not only is blood shunted away from your cerebral cortex and your thinking brain, it's also shunted away from your intestinal tract. Why? Because you don't really need to digest food, and you don't want to be hungry and say, hey, I'd like a bite to eat in the middle of being chased by a crazy tiger. You don't need any blood flow to the digestive tract. It all goes out to the periphery, the muscles, and the heart, and the organs that are necessary to keep you focused, to keep you running, keep you moving. So stomach upset, headaches from muscle tension, high blood pressure from noradrenaline, adrenaline, and too much cortisol, back pain, and chronic muscle spasms. All from an overactive fight or flight. And if you're experiencing this, you have to learn how to get out of fight or flight, dim that fight or flight response, turn it off, and move into the relaxing feel of the parasympathetic nervous system. Number 8, are you susceptible to frequent infections like colds or the flu, chronic fatigue, depression, and or autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and allergies? This has to do with the chronic drain on the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are your emergency stress response glands. Initially, the brain sends a signal to trigger the adrenal glands to put out norepinephrine, epinephrine, cortisol to fight off the stress-related issues and to get you ready and to prepare your body to deal with pain, to prepare your body to deal with running, etc. But in the process, if you're chronically in fight or flight, it drains the adrenal glands. You either have too much cortisol, which is an immune suppressant, and you end up with frequent infections and colds and the flu, or you run out of cortisol and you don't have enough, and then your body starts fighting its own tissues, like these autoimmune disorders like rheumatoid, lupus, inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. These are signs of an overactive fight or flight response that has triggered adrenal fatigue. Number 9, do you often experience shortness of breath, hyperventilation, shallow breathing, deep sighing, increased sweating, cold and clammy hands? So these things again, the hyperventilation or the shallow breathing, the deep sighing, they're ways that the body is trying to get out of fight or flight because it's chronically overstimulated. So this shortness of breath is part of the muscle tension and the quickness of the breathing that's necessary when you run, when you're escaping from danger. And when you do that, your body can't relax. In fact, just breathing rapidly or just having the heart beat quickly basically is kind of a Pavlovian trigger to get the fight or flight system into overdrive. So to calm that system, we need long, deep, calming breaths, and that's what quiets our fight or flight system. Number 10, do you frequently experience a lack of focus, anxiety, racing thoughts, restlessness, irritability, depression, tiredness, hopelessness, anger, sadness, or fear? All of these, shunting of that blood from the cerebral cortex is part of the fight or flight. So we have a lack of focus. We have anxiety. We have racing thoughts. We're looking for the enemy. Restlessness. We're irritable. The depression comes from the adrenal input. The tiredness from the exhaustion of chronic adrenal fatigue. The hopelessness, the anger, the sadness, the fear. All these can come from an overactive fight or flight where we're chronically looking for danger, for threats, for harms, looking to get out of harm's way, and we can't relax. We can't enjoy the wonderful things around us or the good things around us. Everything is perceived as an enemy. Number 11, do you often have an increased heart rate and irregular heartbeats, or what we call arrhythmias? This again, chronic fight or flight, the norepinephrine and the epinephrine alone overstimulate the heart and cause it to contract irregularly and be more susceptible to irregular heartbeats and irregular rhythms. And then finally, number 12, are you susceptible to irritable bowel syndrome, stomach upset, diarrhea, heartburn, and or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, or acid reflux? Remember that during fight or flight, blood is shunted away from the GI tract, from your gastrointestinal tract, so it can go to the muscles and the heart and the critical organs to escape from pursuant tigers and perceived threats to our very survival. When the blood is shunted away from the GI tract, from your stomach, from your colon, from your small intestines, you end up with irritable bowel, stomach upset, diarrhea, heartburn, and or GERD. That represents the checklist that you need to understand for why chronic fight or flight overstimulation is such a critically dangerous system to be in overdrive if we're looking to achieve stress management, if we're looking to achieve some peacefulness, some calmness, some balance in our lives, because fight or flight does not allow us to enjoy life. It keeps us locked in these symptoms that we've just discussed and will prevent you from enjoying many of the wonderful, calming, joyous, beautiful parts of life. So that's the symptom checklist. If any of these things fit for you, you're in the right place. This home study course that we offer at the Academy of Stress Mastery is just what you need to learn how to counteract most and all of these symptoms that come from an overactive fight or flight response. So this is Dr. Neil Neimark signing off for now. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to working with you throughout the rest of this program. Take care.